Hello students and welcome once again to this chapter of textiles. We'll be talking about man-made cellulosic fibers. So let's talk about some man-made cellulosic fibers where you can see that cellulose has been taken. So basically what happens when you make a fiber out of some natural components and some man-made components, that is when you call man-made cellulosic fibers. So the natural component over here is the cellulose, which is coming out from the lint of maybe cotton or jute or any other fabric which is natural, any other fiber which is natural. And how do they make it? It is a polymerization process. It is a process of polymerization within which a long chain of polymer is produced, and this is how they make a strand, they make a filament. Okay, this is the major process by which they make a filament. And okay, and after that what happens is that the spinning process takes place, and this is how they produce a polymerized product which is a fiber. Okay, so what happens is basically raw materials are taken. This is the first process. Raw materials can be anything. It can be little amount of cellulose, it can be some solution, it can be some amount of some acid, and then they mix all of these together, and then the polymerization process takes place. After the polymerization process, what happens? The fibers are formed, but they are drawn and stretched to make them narrower and long in length. And after that, they are textured, they are mingled with other fibers, then they are set by heat, and this is how the finished filaments are formed. So basically, this is the process of polymerization of fibers. Okay, now let's talk about the different synthetic fibers. When we talk about different synthetic fibers, so the cellulosic fibers come in the ones which have a little amount of natural fibers, and with the ones with which have a little amount of synthetic fibers also. So when we classify synthetic fibers, we classify them into inorganic and organic fibers. The examples of inorganic fibers are the carbon, ceramic, glass and metal. And when we talk about organic, they are formed by transformation of natural polymers like acetate, triacetate, cupro, lyocell, modal, viscose and rheol. These all are synthetic, but these are made from some natural fibers like cellulose, like I told you. Okay, and when they modify natural fibers, then they call then the examples are like acetate, triacetate, lyocell, etc., etc. And when they make it from completely synthetic fibers, then the examples are acrylic, mod acrylic, aramid, polyamide, polyester, polyethylene, polypropylene and vinyl. So basically this is how the fibers are made. Now let's firstly, let's talk about rayon fiber. Now you've seen rayon fiber is also, it is also known as artificial silk. So if you see that fiber, you will feel the texture is similar to that of silk, and when you see it by your eyes, your the vision of it resembles that of silk. So but it is a man-made textile fibers. And how is it made? It is made by polymerization of cellulose. Okay, cellulose is used, and this is how rayon is made. Now see, there are basically three processes which we'll be discussing in the manufacture of rayon. The first process is called the nitrocellulose process, and in this wood pulp and cotton are used. But now cotton linters are also used by the manufacturer. Okay, in this cotton linters and wood pulp are used. Initially cotton linters were used, but now it also has some solvents, and now the product that comes out, that resembles that of artificial silk. Okay, so see, There are 2-3 processes of making rayon. Like I said, one is the nitrocellulose process, one is the rayon process, and one is the cupramonium process. Okay, first of all, let's talk about the viscose rayon process. In this, what happens is basically in the viscose rayon process, the pulp is put along with 16 to 18% sodium hydroxide. Wood pulp and cotton linters are put, and then they are shredded in a machine, and after shredding they are kept in a container where alkali is there, cellulose is there, and this container is known as the aging tank. It is known as the aging tank. After that, they are sent to a container where carbon disulfide is used and xanthation process occurs. So in the process of xanthation, cellulose xanthate is formed by the cellulose xanthate is formed, and this xanthate is then polymerized in the presence of 3 to 4% sodium hydroxide solution. It is polymerized to form the viscose rayon. This is the process of polymerization of viscose rayon. This is the processing of viscose rayon. So you need to just do till here. So sorry, you need to do just till here. This is the process of making rayon by the viscose rayon method. The first one was the nitrocellulose method, in which wood pulp and cotton were used, and an organic solvent was put into this along with the wood pulp and cotton. So that is the nitrocellulose method. Then this is the viscose rayon method. So there are basically just 3 steps of making synthetic fibers. One is, the first step is making the solution by immersing the cellulose fibers or the synthetic fibers in the solution. Second is the spinning process, and third is the drawing process. So basically this is the these are the 3 processes of polymerization, we can say, or making of the fiber, synthetic fiber, making of the synthetic fiber. So this is what happens. So this process was the viscose rayon process. The other process is also known, the third process is known as the cupramonium process. In this, cellulose along with ammoniacal solution of copper salts is digested and then spun into filaments. So the solution, the first point is, first of all, cellulose, acetic acid, and our cellulose and acetic acid are mixed, and then here's H2SO4 acts as a catalyst. Sulfuric acid acts as a catalyst. This is then purified, bleached, and then it is shredded into small maybe marbles, or we can say small little units. And then what happens is, it is aged, and while before aging they add glacial acetic acid into it. After aging, they go into certain kneading machines which are known as acetylators. Like the way that we knead dough is the way that there are machines which keep kneading this product which has been formed. Now this forms an acid dope, which is a clear liquid. Now what do? They add water to it to decrease the concentration of the acid dope. After that, cellulose flakes are formed which are dissolved in acetone, and then they form the spinning dope, and they are dry spin by filtering them, and after filtering them they are drawn into filaments. Or we can say they are drawn into small fibers and spun on the bobbin or the spool. So this is the method of the cupramonium process. So basically there are 3 methods of spinning. There is dry spinning, in which only the solution, basically the solution is taken, it is dissolved, the cellulose is dissolved in a solution. After that it is spun and then it is drawn. Okay, these were the 3 processes. So while spinning, basically In the dry method, there is only air, heated air, which is put into it. All right. In the wet method, basically when it is spun, there is some sort of solution here also, or maybe there is water. So there is a water bath in which it is being spun. And in the third process, basically the fibers are melted. The fibers are melted and then they are spun after being melted. These are the three processes of spinning. Let's talk about triacetate. Triacetate is produced by the same method, but it is not aged or ripened. Aged or ripened. We can say that aging is a process. It is not aged or ripened. Okay. So that is the process of making triacetate. Now we talk about lyocell. Lyocell, again, if you remember, like I told you, it is made up of cellulosic fibers. Like, see, I just revise over here. See, lyocell, it was a transformation of natural fibers where I wrote that cellulose is also there. Okay, so lyocell is used, and wait, so we were talking about lyocell over here. Lyocell is form, it is a form of rayon only, which consists of cellulose fibers, which is made by dissolving the pulp using dry, jet, wet spinning. Wet spinning is used. So wood pulp is basically dissolved along with amine oxide, and then it is filtered and then spun, then it is washed and then dried, and then this dry spinning method produces the lyocell. But first it is washed also. That is why they say that it is the dry, jet, wet spinning process. Okay, it is the dry, jet, wet spinning process.